He's an 8-time Louisiana Association of Broadcasters Award winner. And he snapped a ball through his legs.
Wait, why does your name get to go first?
Shut up.
This
Honestly?
is Scone T.
Nah, because they made us.
All right, what's up, good peeps? Welcome in. Scone T from Oliver Twist in Baton Rouge, still bathing in the afterglow of LSU's win over Alabama. I'm Matt. He's T-Bob. This is Oliver Twist. We're glad to have you with us. If you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button. Facebook, please like the page, share the post. If you're listening or watching on demand, thank you so much. Subscribe up on your favorite podcast app. Tigers beat Alabama. We'll talk about it. The dreaded letdown game here up in Arkansas. You got a lot of history in that game as well. So we'll talk about that throughout the show today. Preview the weekend coming up in the SEC.
Yo, what's up, y'all? What's going on? Hey, so
Wow.
So this crown is...
Why is your hair wet?
Nearly... I just got out of the shower. This crown is nearly as old as me. This is 29 years old.
Yes.
That is...
Crown 29 is the break-even pour tonight.
Kind of absurd. And
So-
am I reading this right? It's $15 a pour tonight?
Yes, so this
So
would...
how much would this be normally?
75.
Oh, my God.
And it's you could tell like the whole city is still a little hungover, like gleeful.
Yeah,
It's like the morning after the party, like whenever you go out to get breakfast and you're hungover, but you got your coffee and your eggs and you're still pumped about the night before, but you ain't feeling so great because you're hungover. Like, that's the malaise that the city is in right now. Unfortunately, like the people who aren't here tonight are going to miss out on an opportunity to get a 29-year crown pour for $15.
Damn, dude.
I know, like this
I'm
is.
excited.
I would say this is the most expensive pour that we've had so far here. So,
Okay, got my tweet off. We're good to go.
all right, LSU beats Alabama. Before we move ahead into the Arkansas game, is there?
What are we looking at here, Chef?
Eggs Boudreaux. Look at that.
Go, dude.
Slide it over. Slide
Yummy,
it over.
yummy
Get that thing in the
my
shot.
tummy.
Get that thing in the shot. You know the other thing that is unfortunate for yours truly is, as I told you, I don't know if you even remember me telling you this on Whiskey and Wine Saturday night.
I don't remember anything from Whiskey and Wine, and it
not
wasn't even the
surprised.
drinking. No, it really wasn't even the drinking this time. It was just the adrenal. It was literally the adrenal fever dream
You
that
yelled
was
a lot.
that show. It was, well, guess what? I set the fucking tone here last Wednesday, didn't I? Fucking told you. The whole last Scone T, I yelled my dick off about how we're going to beat Alabama, and look what happened. But, of course, it was a night that called for raucous celebration and yelling, and what I love is that they closed Don Juan and kick everybody out, and then everybody just like hung out on the curb till like 1 a.m.
Yeah, I left.
Still just sitting there talking about it before finally going our separate ways.
I told you on Whiskey and Wine that go ahead. Of course. Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm going to let mine open up a little bit.
To the West.
I told you on Whiskey and Wine that I'm doing a no alcohol November.
So I heard you say that right before the show started today, but I did not hear you. I do not remember that at Whiskey and Wine.
So I did not drink it all during Whiskey and Wine. They gave me my pour, and I toasted with everybody and just set it on the table.
Oh, wow. I'm shocked.
I mean, stone cold sober.
Wow.
Well, look, man, I'm at a point where, like, it happens every year. Like, I eat and drink a bunch during football season, gain weight, and then I lose weight during the winter and spring.
Okay.
For
get back ready for summer.
And it's just this whole cycle. And I was like, you know what? I'm bigger right now than I've ever been. I'm like 240 pounds.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I keep on this path,
packing on mass
throughout November and December into the holidays and wait to January, I'll be like 260.
Yeah, it's going to be rough.
I cannot tell. Like, I've got to change something abruptly. So
that's fair. I mean, that is always a great way to cut out calories for sure. You should just do push-ups between every segment.
I work out plenty, and this is not why anybody's here right now, so it doesn't matter. I'm feeling good, feeling strong, but I do need to lose weight. So this is 29-year crown, so I'm going to partake in a little bit of that.
Hell
so excited about that. All right, do you have any other thoughts, feelings on the Alabama win? Do you want to reset any of that, or have we spoken all our piece over it?
No, I mean, I think I want to highlight the performance of Joe Fouché. Certainly, Jared Bernard-Converse did fantastic. You know, Joe Fouché was actually the highest graded player on the team from PFF. Jared Bernard-Converse, I didn't realize until rewatching the final 2 Jarek Bernard Converse plays in regulation were absolutely massive.
Yeah.
Cover 0, he was 1-on-1 deep ball to the end zone. And then there's a first down that almost certainly would have spelled death for LSU, with Alabama getting a fresh set of downs in 15 seconds at Bernard Converse there. And he had the pick, obviously. The defensive line was heroic all night long. To not have a rotation and dominate Alabama's offensive line like they did, and a lot of that is some creative usage from Matt House and where he's bringing the 3 and 4 from. But I mean, also like adding at times as well to keep everybody honest, not just committing to not bringing extra guys, but like Mekhi Wingo consistently dominated his man. Ollie Gay for the second game in a row really flashed in the run game. Still not the biggest impact in the pass game, but had a couple really nice run stuffs. Jaquelin Roy had a couple nice moments pushing guys into Bryce's lap, getting him off his rhythm. Really, that defensive line, again, for not having a rotation, they are truly fantastic. It was interesting to see Demario Tolan get in there.
He's played a lot the last 3 weeks.
And some big spots there at the end as well. You can tell he probably is even he's maybe a little less talented here early on than like Harold Perkins, but he is incredibly instinctive and naturally talented himself. He's probably just struggling to get massive swaths of the playbook down. And so Matt House is using him very tactically, is the word that Brian Kelly keeps using. Certainly offensively, this offensive line just continues to be a pleasure. It's weird. The sack numbers are a bit like, I don't know how exactly how to explain it, Matt. Maybe something along the lines
sacks allowed?
Sacks allowed. Maybe not all sacks are created equal.
Yeah.
And that a lot of times these sacks are kind of Jaden trying to extend plays and maybe barely getting tripped up, whereas other times he tries to extend it and ends up being like the best play that you have.
The only sack that I remember being really impactful was the one Will Anderson had on Will Campbell at the start of the second quarter.
He went to do like a quick set on him and just got beat immediately out of the inside.
And as we pointed out, the very next play, though, was the John Emery touchdown. So, I mean, the ability for LSU to continue to overcome adversity was awesome. So, look, LSU beats Bama, and it really does change all of our conversations. Our conversations are no longer about, hey, let's see where they can keep improving, get as many wins as they can, go to a nice bowl game, build for the future. Like, the conversation has completely changed now to where you're legitimately talking about, man, Saturday night when you put your head on the pillow, I mean, LSU could have already clinched the West.
Yeah.
And you're now saying, all right, you got 2 wins.
It's actually more likely than not than they clinched the West.
That you go and go into Atlanta at 10-2, and if you keep improving at this rate and you see things fall where it may, I mean, I was listening to Jimmy's show on the way over here, and he had one of his handicapper friends, Andy Isco, on from Las Vegas, who said today, if the game were being played, Georgia would be an 11-point favorite over LSU in the SEC championship game, which sounds, fine.
That sounds right, dude.
But how much more do point spread values change between now and the end, and that first Saturday in December when they get there, if they get there, but they got to get there too, and a big part of that is winning, your next 2 SEC games to leave no doubt. Do you worry at all about the Arkansas hangover effect?
I do not. Now, whatever. Football's a game full of variables, but at a certain point, I have to accept what the evidence is showing me. And what I've seen out of this team is consistent, sustainable improvement. Like that was my main takeaway, Matt, from rewatching the film, is that there was nothing fluky about this victory. This was not 2020 in the swamp where you had like a post-game win expectancy of like 2% and you'd have crazy balls that got batted around and then Jay Ward's falling out of bounds and picks it off and those are just like, no. If anything, LSU had probably more bad breaks go against them and still overcame and still found a way to win the game. And that is in keeping with a Florida game, which was not a fluky win. It was consistent improvement from Auburn on, which was followed up by an Ole Miss game, which was even better than the Florida game. And again, not fluky in any way. And then nothing about this Alabama game was. You won in the trenches. Like you won on both lines of scrimmage. And you end up beating Alabama. Like you were at home, so that's definitely an advantage. But I guess my point is, what you're seeing there is all consistent, sustainable growth and success that is all very process-oriented, right? That it's continuously been what Brian Kelly is going back to. And so when it's coming through the process and it's coming through great coaching, which no doubt about it, after this bye week, it's probably the best advantage that LSU has had as a staff in this matchup in years. And And so if your strengths are coaching and your improvement is process-oriented, like those are elements that help you avoid the trap game situation.
I want to talk situationally what this series has been in the past in a second, but I think the point you made about the line of scrimmage is something we did talk about last week. I mean, it was pretty evident. If I look at Alabama, there's two things we've talked about where they're not what they were. They're not what they were at the line of scrimmage, and they're not what they were at receiver.
Yeah.
And they weren't able to exploit that. The line of scrimmage point, is the example I kept using was 2015. There was no greater illustration of the differences at the line of scrimmage than 2015. LSU went in undefeated, ranked number 1.
That was the Jonathan Allen year, right? That doesn't matter.
No, 2015 was A'Shawn Robinson and Jerron Reed.
Okay.
And that was when Fournette went in and had 19 carries for 31 yards.
I think Allen was on that rotation.
And it might have been. But the flip side was Derrick Henry went for 38 carries and 210 that day. And there was no greater illustration of the differences at the line of scrimmage than that game. And that's what that game was for 10 years. But I think there were two reasons because of that. And this also kind of carries into the Arkansas conversation. One, it was how Les Miles wanted to play that game. He wanted to play in the phone booth. And Nick was like, okay, we're better than you. Well, we can just keep you at arm's length and play this game in a phone booth and ultimately win it. And he did, more often than not. And the other side of it, too, was Les, and you played for him, so this is where I do want to ask you your opinion. Les was never afraid of building up the Alabama game. As someone who covered all of those teams, he never shied away. Nick would always say it's a big game because it's the next game. Les would do the national interviews. He would do the features in ESPN, the magazine. I remember there was this big, enormous feature in the 2012 ESPN, the magazine, before that game. It was actually, they called it The Issue. Do you remember that?
I had a tweet end up there that got me kicked out of the LSU building for a while, where I tweeted, I think, something along the lines of, like, coaches completely fucked up this game and should apologize to the players, and they ended up printing it in there.
Wait, in 2012 or 11?
In 12. The issue was based on the 12 game day, right? It wasn't just for the run-up, though. They, experienced the game and then wrote about it after the fact.
Yeah.
And so a tweet after that game, the TJ Yeldon screen, with me blaming the coaches. Because, remember, that's the last game, until 19, that was the last game that LSU had statistically dominated Alabama. They lost, but they were way ahead in the box score. And so, I blame the coaches, whatever. It's a stupid story. I just couldn't go back to the LSU building.
No, that's fine. So the ESPN, the magazine, which I don't even think exists anymore, they did something that they called The Issue, where the entire issue was on one thing. And the entire issue that time was on the LSU-Alabama game. And my point is, Les was very open to that. He was very open to building everything up and making it a big deal, and he never shied away from it. The problem was, when you inevitably lost, then there was this completely deflating effect that it had, and because you had lost the tiebreaker, in essence, to Alabama, you had lost the SEC West, and so now it's like, what are we playing for? And then you had to go play Arkansas, and Arkansas cared way more about this game than LSU did. It has always cared way more about this game than LSU did, and so it was just a very deflating thing. Like, you saw Les's teams struggle late in November after they would lose to Alabama. So, and this is where I think there's a pretty big chasm, because what we forget sometimes is Ed never lost to Arkansas until last year.
Yeah.
That was his only loss from the time he was interim in 2016, and they lost 10-0 to Alabama.
That was one of the reasons why he got the job.
In 202017, they lost to Alabama.
Badly.
That was the Matt Canada.
29-0, right?
No, that was 2018.
Oh, okay.
2017 was the one there where they actually scored points, which was thrilling. And then 2018 was the shutout, the 29-0. 2019, of course, you won. 2020 was the COVID year. Well, that was all. The schedule was all jumbled that year. But my point is, Ed had no problem getting his team ready to play because he took a different approach and different tact with Alabama. Like, I'll tell you, I'll give Ed credit when he deserves credit. And that's one thing he did very well, was compartmentalizing week to week with his team. Like, he did a very good job of that, and Les, I don't think, did. And Brian Kelly has been magnificent at it. I'm sure you've seen this.
Well, it's kind of the entire ethos of Brian Kelly. Like, you laugh at me when I say one snap and clear.
Well,
but
I only say because you say it all.
Okay,
but what was
Brian?
Like, it's the one truth. But so then
but what was Brian Kelly's entire post-game press conference about? The entire thing. The entire thing was about just focusing on the one play, just the next play. Like, he did not use the phrase one snap and clear, but he explained the ethos throughout the entire postgame.
And of course, there is merit to that. There's merit to that.
Golden rule.
There's merit to that in everything. If you're a batter and you swing and miss at a pitch,
that's all it's saying. It's just be present.
Of course, there is merit to that. But that's easier said than done. And then whenever you mix in a lot of the variables that we're talking about right now, which are, okay, we're sitting here talking about how hungover the city is. You know, these guys have been going to class all week and have been hearing it all week. And now Brian Kelly's got to get this team refocused for what their goals are. You got to go on a plane and play an Arkansas team at 11 a.m. It's going to be 38 degrees. All the things that you've heard and you know. And you look at the line and it's 3 points and it makes you go, that's a stinky line. And if I'm in Mishawaka, Indiana, and know nothing about these teams, and I look at that line, and I'm like, that's a stinky line.
Yeah.
I'm taking Arkansas on the points.
Yeah.
Like, so if you objectively remove yourself, emotionally remove yourself, Arkansas would be the play if you were a bettor.
The difference here is Brian Kelly, because he is an outlier in both resume and here in success level year one.
Maybe I'm naive, and this is why I don't ever bet LSU, because I'd like to think that I'm completely impartial, but I'm looking at Brian Kelly. I'm looking at his history, the fact that you realize he's won 17 consecutive games in November.
Yeah, he hasn't lost in November in like years.
His last November loss, they lost in 2017. So for context, that was Ed's first full-time season. 2017 is the last time he lost in November. They lost on the road to Miami and at home against Stanford.
And they normally got like a couple tough games there late in the season with Notre Dame. It wasn't like they weren't playing anybody.
Ran through it on AFR. There were ranked teams. There was a road game against a ranked North Carolina team. They played like a 12th ranked Syracuse. They played a ranked Navy and hung 55 on them. They went on the road and played Southern Cal. Number one Clemson, the COVID year, was in November. I mean, it ain't like they had just all layups in there. But it just illustrates what he's done, and then that's carried over this year. The one time this year where I really thought situationally it was not in LSU's favor was when they got blown out by Tennessee and then had to go to Florida. And I think we might forget now in hindsight, but there were a lot of people picking LSU to beat Tennessee. Everyone wasn't super convinced Tennessee was real.
Small spread, another stinky line.
It was a 2-point line. LSU was at home. The game was a sellout. There were a lot of people picking LSU to win that game, right? And so you're feeling good about yourself on the come up. You know, you beat Mississippi State, you beat Auburn, and now here's a chance to say, oh, look, the Florida State thing was a fluke, and you get pounded by a good team, and then you got to go on the road to the Swamp. Bro, they played their best game of the year at that point. They scored 6 straight drives to open the game.
And I love it combined with some of the comments that Brian Kelly had the weekend after Tennessee, where he kind of calmly explained that, look, whether we were right or wrong, we were pressing for a win. And this is something that, like, Malcolm Gladwell has written about extensively when he talks about, like, trying to affect an upset, right, like as an underdog or something. And basically Kelly was look, the decisions that it's not the bell curve, it's Dave and Goliath. Dave versus Goliath.
I haven't read that one. Okay, I need to read it.
But he basically talks about how, like, the same strategies that can lead you to punch up a lot of times inherently have extra risk, right? And Brian Kelly basically explained that. Said, I made decisions that made the outcome look even worse in an attempt to try to win. Now, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but it is what I did, and that made it look worse than we think it is. Remember, we were all bailing on Jaden Daniels, and granted, he still didn't play well versus Tennessee. The numbers looked good. They were kind of empty. But obviously now we see that it was actually on the road to improvement, right? But I'll never forget when Brian Kelly basically said, well, we don't see it that way. I can't remember what exactly he was asked about. Like,
Michael Cobble asked the question, and he asked if he ever considered going to Nussmeier in the game because it looked like Jaden really struggled.
Yeah.
And Brian Kelly said, no, we didn't see it that way. We felt like the quarterback was one of the only good parts of the offense today.
And so that's a coach that isn't panicking.
We talked about this on Whiskey and Wine also, which you don't remember.
And
you yelled at me a lot because you said we were all bailing on Jaden. I said,
I know, no, bro, we cannot go down this road again. You can't make every conversation into you believed in Jaden Daniels. You also thought the offensive line fucking sucked, and they're incredible.
And they got better.
And they're incredible now. So, I don't know. But you were giving me shit when I was saying that this team had potential to be a better O-line than last year. You're like, hell, everybody was returning last year. These are all new faces. I said, I think their talent level may be higher. That's what my point is.
Jaden
I don't
was
give
never
a
bad.
fuck about who was right or wrong. That's not the point of this conversation.
But Jaden was never bad this year.
Yes, he was.
He was a quarterback in a bad offense.
He was not playing good quarterback play. He was making like playmaker plays, but his quarterback play was not good. And this is not coming from me. This is coming from Matt Flynn. And then what Matt said is that the most shocking part about this season is that from which even Tennessee you would put in the bad category, you went to Ole Miss and Florida, and he didn't just go from bad to good. He went to great. And then it's just gotten better and better. So, like, it doesn't matter. The point is, of highlighting that Brian Kelly quote, is to say that is a coaching staff that is not panicking, that was able to objectively view, okay, here's where we're at. We still have some juice. Like, we are better than what we looked like against Tennessee. Make the players believe that. Make them continue to trust the process. And now, if you're a player and you bought into that process, I mean, Matt, you're seeing direct return on the investment. I mean, immediately here, you are seeing, and as a player, all that does is give you more momentum to want to buy in even more. And so, again, maybe I'm wrong, but my view of this is that, no, I'm not worried about all these elements tripping up Arkansas or tripping up LSU against Arkansas, because I don't think that how this team got here, the process which they used to get here, like, I don't see them bailing on that. And it's specifically made to produce consistent, this is the week, this is what we do, styles of play. And really, I guess, is all just a very verbose way of saying good coaching. Like, good coaching helps team to continue to lock in. It's the how do you accomplish that goal where the real alchemy lies. And that's something that guys like Saban and Brian Kelly and all the greats eventually figure out. And it is through, a lot of times, a process. And like, Kelly's got that thing that he's been tweaking for 40 years of coaching college football. And it's just paying dividends here way earlier than I would have expected. I was always a long-term Cult of Kelly believer. What this team is accomplishing right now is way beyond what I ever would have expected.
Completely.
And you're seeing all these freshmen you're seeing these freshmen step up all over the field, whether it's both the tackles, obviously Harold Perkins, Mason Taylor, who, again, credit Kelly, trust the process. We think Taylor's going to be great compared to Brock Bowers. Everybody's saying, stop trying to make Mason Taylor happen. It's a drain on the offense. You keep throwing the ball, it's dropping, it's not working, and it continued to get better every week. And now it culminates in Taylor going over one defender in the corner of the end zone with two guys on him to catch the touchdown to go up 3, and then the game-winning two-point conversion. And the kid can block. Like, he's actually a legitimate blocker. I have clips on my phone of him going toe-to-toe with To'o. And so it's the confidence that has been established by the consistency of the last month makes me feel good about them going to an Arkansas team that they are objectively better than. Like, the real problem of less in Alabama, I do feel you that the buildup probably affected the next weeks more, but the real problem of less in Alabama was less versus Nick Saban. Yeah,
no, it wasn't the Alabama result. It was what we're talking about. Of course.
No, I know. I'm saying the build-up to that game, and then, but yes, maybe the build-up affected it afterwards, but there was no such build-up here. I mean, Kelly even said that. He was like, we feel in the past that they treated it with a bit too much pomp and circumstance.
That was
just the next game.
But Ed never did. Like, Ed really didn't. I mean, there was the whole we come in and we ain't backing down thing after 17, but really that is the difference. So you played at Arkansas twice, and the caveat here is when you played, it was still on Black Friday in 8 and in 10, and you lost both of those. 8 was Arkansas was a terrible team.
I had a torn ACL. That's when Raheem Alim kicked that helmet at the end of the game.
Oh yeah. It was
Jordan Jefferson's first start?
Yeah, it was Miracle on Markham Part 2 when Casey Dick threw the game-winning touchdown pass in 2008. And that was a terrible Arkansas team. And then 2010 was the Ryan Mallett team where I think it was Carnell Hatcher.
I remember that game. Yes, right before the end of the half. Hatcher went for the big hit and missed it.
And they housed it. But that was a really good, I mean, they had like triplet receivers on that Arkansas team, and Mallett was really good.
I mean, it was a pretty highly ranked.
That was a really good Arkansas team. They went to the Sugar Bowl and lost to Ohio State.
I'll never forget the tweet too, because we needed Auburn to beat Alabama, and they were up 21-0, and they blew. Or no, excuse me, opposite.
Correct.
We needed Alabama to beat Auburn. They were 21-0, and they blew it. And I remember Kelvin Shepard, shout out, coach for the Lions, tweeting like. Like way to go, like something along the lines of like, we're not going to mess it up like Alabama did, and then we lost to Arkansas the next day. I was pissed.
Yeah, that was negative. Wait, I'm trying to think. Was that Alabama-Auburn game on Thanksgiving?
It might have been.
Or no,
maybe
you know
my memory's back there. Another Gladwell book talks about how we can't trust our memories.
Yeah, no, that was one of his podcasts too, where he did who's the guy? Brian Williams, the whole thing. Do you remember that?
Yes, yeah, no, exactly. Yes, he's talked about it a bunch.
It's like our only synergies you and I have.
And Jay and Silent Bob,
Malcolm Gladwell, and Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like T-Bob and I are one and the same with those two things, and that's it.
I mean, we don't agree on LSU.
Well,
but
we're
we
also both white
enjoy.
males that live in Louisiana. I mean, we can get really nuanced here if you want, but come on. Like anyway, but there was like a 2-year period where, and I think it was like 9 and 10, where the Iron Bowl went to Black Friday, and the LSU-Arkansas game went to Saturday.
Because that is my memory of it. Is that game being on Friday, and we were watching it in the hotel.
It was,
and we were pissed.
They did it for one cycle, home and home, where LSU-Arkansas went to Saturday, and then after that, LSU-Arkansas moved when A&M came into the league, and then Arkansas-Missouri went to the went to Black Friday, and A&M and LSU got played earlier. So
yeah,
and now you know the rest of the story.
So I guess here's the deal. Everything people are worried about. The one thing that I don't enjoy is that it's all very fear-based, and I don't know I don't know what this team has done to make you think that as a fan you should engage in fear-based thinking. I know that it's natural, right? But I would fight against it.
Bro, because we have a longer sample of us thinking this team wasn't going to be great.
Yes.
Relative to this very small sample of the last 4 weeks where we're like, holy shit, they're actually getting really good.
So what I'm saying is,
like, is this real?
At a point, this season is a big sample, like is a representative sample, and it's been fucking great. And you did go on the road to the Swamp, right? In a very tough environment. Like you said, it's a tougher spot than this one.
Yeah.
Like, besides the cold weather, it's a much tougher spot than this one, given where Florida was at the time, the belief that they had versus maybe where Arkansas is at, coming off of Liberty. And so, no, like, I mean, so I understand how you can still be arriving at fear-based thinking. It's very natural. But again, I would point you to really the season as a whole, but especially the last month, and that is consistent, sustainable improvement. It's not fluky, right? And so I would say have confidence. Like, have confidence. You can really have confidence that this is going to go well, and I believe that you will be rewarded for that.
The other thing we have to talk about, we'll do that in a second, is KJ Jefferson, because that's a legitimate, enormous part of this, which we'll get to. We're at Oliver Twist. Really good crowd in here now.
Let's go.
If you want to come on by, the break-even bottle is Crown 29 year. Crown tends to be lower proof, and like Canadian whiskey tends to be like sweeter and lower proof, really drinkability. That's why it's
fucking hate Canadians.
I know, but like when you drink that, you don't think sweet and low proof when you drink that. So it's a very full body, full flavored whiskey. 29 years is, and actually to be 29 years in a barrel and to not just taste like you're licking a tree is pretty remarkable. It's really good.
I don't hate Canadians, by the way. I love Trailer Park Boys. Hockey's pretty cool. Obviously,
Terrence and Phillip?
Terrence and Phillip are funny as hell.
Shania Twain.
Okay. Celine Dion, I think.
Mike Myers.
Okay.
Yeah, Celine Dion for sure.
I like Ryan Reynolds a lot. By the way, Celine Dion's
Jim
mom.
Jim Carrey.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Jim Carrey.
How about this? Celine Dion's mom was an A-Bear. Look it up. And,
Pamela Anderson? Was she Canadian?
I don't know. But obviously, the Cajun people. We hail from the Cajun people. We hail from Acadie, Nova Scotia. So in a way, we are Canadian. I just don't like maple syrup. I apologize. Fuck maple syrup, not fuck Canada. That's what I meant. I like a Louisiana cane syrup.
To quote Richard Condon, Canada's never whipped anybody's ass. I don't know, but Canada's they've been partnered up whipping ass. I mean, Canada never whipped nobody's ass. They sit up there, they got their little maple leaf, they do their thing. It's freezing all the time. They ain't whip nobody's ass, but you know what?
No, dude. Fuck Canada in winter in your own time, dude.
Nice people and
stuff.
Your
own risk, I should say.
All right. So, by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, please smash that like button.
McDonald is Canadian?
Facebook, please like the page, share the post. And if you're listening on podcast, on demand, thank you so much. Please subscribe up on your favorite podcast app. We appreciate that. Okay, so, and we're at Oliver Twist. Awesome spot here. Great food. This is, what do you call this? This is like the Eggs Boudreaux or something?
Yeah, I think it's the Eggs Boudreaux.
Is that sausage or is that a burger patty? Oh, that's sausage.
No, it's a biscuit. Split sausage.
It's a biscuit, sausage, a fried egg on top, and the gravy, and the white gravy, and then potatoes as well. It's just so good.
I'm about to slam this.
Hey, you can have it all.
Oh yeah, look at that. Norm Macdonald's from Quebec City, Canada. How about that? One of the best jokes ever is Norm Macdonald on the old Conan show. Tell him, I don't remember it. Joke about the bug.
Joke about what now?
The bug.
The butt?
The bug.
The bug.
I can't remember. He goes to see his therapist or something.
No, I don't remember.
It's a very good joke, though.
Didn't see it. Haven't heard of it.
Well, what did you want to say?
KJ Jefferson is what I want to talk about.
Okay, what about him?
KJ Jefferson.
Thank you. Look at me. I'm Samantha.
You drinking a Cosmo? What is that?
This is, let me double check so I tell you correctly. Again, I was never a premium cocktail enjoyer until I came here to Scone T. And I think it was when I coined 2 shots in a cock that they were like, hey, we should give him cocktails.
Yes, 2 shots in a cock.
So this is PX, I Love You. And it's aged rum, PX sherry, yuzu liquor, lemon juice, orgeat syrup, egg white, and
you want me to try?
Angostura bitters.
Angostura, yeah.
Angostura bitters.
Yep.
Angostura bitters. PX, I Love You.
Angostura bitters, you should use those in an old-fashioned. Really good.
Little egg white. Little frothy.
Okay. So KJ Jefferson is, in my opinion, like the story in this game. Because I think the only way that Arkansas legitimately has a shot to win the game on Saturday, now this is provided there isn't a total fucking shit show where you throw 6 picks and fumble 5 times.
Or like
and all
injuries,
that
like stuff like that.
Like, I'm talking, you just go up to Arkansas and you play it straight up. The way that I think that Arkansas has a shot is if KJ Jefferson balls out. They are, interestingly enough, if you look at Arkansas's offense, they average more yards per game than LSU. Kendall Browse is their OC, really creative play caller. They throw it for 250 a game. They run it for 234 a game. The thing is, Traylon Burks was their big-time receiver a year ago. He's in the NFL. They really don't have a dominant
Knox
receiver.
Kid, he looked good early on. Did he not develop?
So,
I haven't checked in on him in a while.
Knox has played. He's a little down the depth chart. The guy they brought in to be their number 1 is Jaden Hazelwood, who's a transfer from Oklahoma. And he had some injuries early, and he's just kind of getting going now. But they just here's their receiving totals. So Matt Landers has 595 yards. Hazelwood, who I mentioned, has 44 catches for 553. So those are really their top 2 guys. After that, it's their tight end Trey Knox. It's Raheem Sanders, their running back.
There's Knox.
Really the crux of what they do offensively is all off of the quarterback run, along with Raheem Sanders. Raheem Sanders is a physical back. You got a 6'3", 250-pound quarterback who's athletic and dynamic. Like, Sanders is already over 1,100 rushing yards this season. He's got 3 games to go. So it really is, like, when they don't have KJ Jefferson, they stink offensively. They went to Mississippi State, and KJ Jefferson didn't play. Malik Hornsby played in his place. They lost to Mississippi State 40 to 17. And it wasn't even that close. Malik Hornsby stinks. He cannot throw the football. I think he completed 8 passes in that game against Mississippi State. So if KJ Jefferson can't play and Malik Hornsby plays,
so I haven't.
So KJ's got a bum. He's got a bum shoulder. He literally.
I know he's been dealing with it all year. He's kind of been going back and forth.
So he missed the Mississippi. He got hurt against Alabama. Missed the Mississippi State game. He played against BYU and they put up 52 in that game. They had a bye, and they came back against Auburn, and they won that one. And then they lost to Liberty this past weekend, but he didn't throw last week during practice. Like, he didn't throw the football in practice because of his arm. He played in the game, and, bro, I watched that game because I had Liberty plus 14.5. Liberty dominated the first half of that game. Yeah. Arkansas kicked a field goal on the last play of the first half. It was 21-0, and it was 21-3. Now, Liberty didn't score in the second half, and Arkansas had 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns. They had a 2-point conversion attempt with like a minute left to tie it, and they threw it in the end zone. It was incomplete. But point is, their offense was shit. I mean, their offense was shit against Liberty with a limited KJ Jefferson. So, man, I don't know what to tell you, bro. Like, if he's not right and you have this physical LSU defensive
let's say
front,
even if he is right, is a problem for them. Like, I mean, potentially, like, I get it. KJ Jefferson's a very good player, but Matt House put down a plan that confused the hell out of Will Rogers. He put down a plan that held Bryce Young under 50% completion. Anthony Richardson ain't shit, but he shut down Anthony Richardson except for like an insane
the 80-yard run. But see, that's the thing with KJ Jefferson. That's the difference. You're not trying to confuse KJ Jefferson or anything like that. It's really Kendall Briles just tries to create misdirection, to create lanes for his running back and his quarterback. I mean, you have to be look, I'm not scheming shit, obviously, right? But it's one of those games where you just have to be disciplined and stay in your lanes and shit like that, and not let.
That's what I'm saying. This LSU team has proven to be very good at that. They did that so well against Alabama. They did that well against Richardson and company. I mean, I guess they gave up the 80-yard touchdown or whatever.
First play of the fourth quarter, too.
I know. Right after they went up big. And then that was the only thing that made it sketchy was that play.
And then against Alabama, the first play of the fourth quarter was the 34-yard run by Jahmyr Gibbs off left side. What the fuck is up with this in the first play of the fourth quarter?
Well, all I know is, like, the fact that Bryce Young only did one Bryce Young against you and basically canceled it out with another Bryce Young that he tried that resulted in a pick is a massive
win. In the end zone.
And hey, if you're talking about needing to spy a quarterback, Matt, there is not a better QB spy in the nation than Harold Perkins.
He's pretty good at football.
Yeah, I would say ending up on the SEC awards list in back-to-back weeks is pretty damn good. So is Jaden Daniels winning Offensive Player of the Week in back-to-back weeks. Shout out.
I got an email.
LSU Sports Fanatics. Hey, T-Bub has on his favorite shirt. Hell yeah, I do, dude. It's Andor night. When I get done with this, I'm going to watch the latest episode of Andor, and Andor is some of the best Star Wars that has ever been made.
I got this note today from Matt Pignatella with On3. You know, On3 does their NIL valuation. Like, if you go to On3, you can look at a player's profile, and it'll tell you his NIL value as well. Have you seen that?
No, I've not. I have questions about how you develop it, but that is an attractive thing to have.
On3 NIL valuation. So, like, if you go to any, this is the NIL 100, they'll tell you there's Bronny James, right? And on the right, they'll tell you his valuation is $7.5 million, right? So even if you just went to, like, LSU On3. Sorry, we're doing this live as we go through it. So that's the Bengal Tigers. So if I go to LSU On3 and we go to their commitments, look, I'll show you LSU. Here's LSU's commitments. It'll tell you there's Shelton Sampson. His NIL value is $237. So it's part of all their profiles.
That's hilarious.
So I got this note today.
But we should also say, don't hold those numbers as gospel truth. It's interesting that they're doing this, but this is an incredibly volatile market. We have to wait and watch these numbers develop. But it is an interesting thing to have, for sure.
He said in this note, he said, because they wanted to set me up with Shannon Terry, who's the founder of On3, to talk about all this.
Hasn't he founded every recruiting site?
Yes, he finds it, sells it, his non-compete expires. I think he did Rivals, 247, and now On3. So anyway, Harold Perkins, since Saturday, I'll read this directly. Harold Perkins' dominant performance against Alabama this past Saturday has since led to significant NIL implications for the freshman star linebacker, as his On3 NIL valuation has doubled, jumping to $626,000, a 50% increase, and placing him as the 34th ranked college football NIL rankings.
So I would say this again. I'm not married as much to the number as much to the takeaway that it is fascinating that we now live in an era of college football where great play on a big stage can directly correlate to your finances increasing. That's wild. That is something that would have been beyond comprehension even a few years ago. And I'm very happy. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm very happy. I want kids to be paid. I think the positive stories will vastly exceed any of the negative stories. Cation Booty's 14
in the country. Look, you can look at it.
No, but that's cool. Again, it doesn't matter about the number itself. What does matter there and what is interesting is that, again, a huge game on a big stage makes you like literally makes you money. And so now, look, pride and school and state and family and your brother being a counted brother, these are all very powerful motivations. So is making money.
Sean Michael Habetz on Facebook said, Matt and T-Bob, do you think Brian Kelly ever listens to OTB and AFR?
No.
I think there is no chance Brian Kelly is listening. I will tell you this.
There are some coaches. I've known some assistant coaches that'll listen some.
There are assistants that do.
Yeah.
Brian Kelly, I will tell you, there's virtually no chance. No. Les Miles knew me, right?
No, I mean, dude, Les was in his own fucking world.
Les knew me, but I guarantee you he had no clue that I did an afternoon drive radio show on the station managed by Gordy Rush. I think he thought Gordy was an on-air person. He was that ambivalent. Like he existed in his own universe. I would love to be a fly on the wall at like a 1 p.m. or something off season on a Thursday, like what Les is doing in his office. Now, Ed was aware of everything because Derek, of course, listened to everything and told him everything.
Well.
And Joe Oliva was a P1 listener to our radio station. And in a technical term, is P1. It's like if you're like from the moment you wake up in the morning, you turn it on and it's on. Like you listen, all day, every day. That was Joe Oliva. Joe was terrible at his job, and he knew it. And he cared way too much about what we said, what everybody said, and it created for a lot of. I never said this shit while I was here, but like, it created for a lot of uncomfortable moments, especially because our company is the affiliate and the flagship affiliate of the LSU Sports Radio Network. Yeah. So, like, our companies are, like, LSU and Guarantee Media are in business together.
Yeah, we got in trouble a few times.
Bro, I mean, your boy over here was taking all the fucking bullets, man.
The O era was definitely bad for you, but yeah,
it was a really, really rough 5 years professionally. It was. We don't have to go too deep into it, but there's shit I've never said or disclosed. I just put my head down and just kept working. But I think because in the end I knew I would outlast him, and it's.
Oh wow, who are you, the old boy from Florida?
Oh, I did hear that, but it's true though. But it is. There's
What's
nothing
his
wrong
name?
with
Mark Long.
I didn't know who it was, but I did hear that someone said that like off camera. But it's true. Like, if you're going to work in a market for a long time, the way you have longevity is you just have to be honest with your audience and realize you don't work for the university or the team you cover. You work for your audience. Like, I do a show for the audience. No, I don't do a show for LSU. I love LSU. I want them to win and everything. But if I disagree with something or if I don't like something, I'm going to say it. It's just that's just the nature of the business. So, and most people understand that and don't give a shit. Like, because it doesn't matter what I say or what you say. It just doesn't matter. We're just having a conversation.
If you work in sports, like, it's one of the few areas in life that is actually a meritocracy. Like, if you win, you're going to be beloved. Like, so it doesn't matter. Like, you can get pissed at me all you want about me talking shit, but, like, if you win, nothing fucking matters. Like, if you win, you will be a legend, and nobody will say anything to you. So you are quite literally in control of your own destiny. That's why I've never really – No, I get people being upset. It is human to be upset when you have this sort of criticism. It is just the nature of the beast, right? It's hard to know people that you cover. I would much rather not know anyone that I'm covering because it just makes everything easier. So it's the nature of the beast. But again, like, if you're a coach, don't be a fucking pussy and bitch about it. Or if you're an administrator, just do better. And if you don't do better, except that you're in a highly paid position where that's the gig. If you don't do better, you're going to get a bit publicly shamed and you're going to get fired. But guess what? You're going to get hundreds of thousands of dollars, or you're going to get millions. Like, you're going to get way more than the average person out there just listening gets. And so accept that is a career that you've chosen and that it's not like, woe is me. No, it is what it is, dude. If you don't do good, you get shit on. If you do good, you're a hero.
There's a lot.
People were kind of shitting on Brian Kelly after the Tennessee game. Now people want to fucking put up a statue. It's like, and I get it. I feel like I completely get it. It's natural.
All right, we're going to get to your questions. So if you're watching live, thank you. Please start to line up your questions. We'll get to those. Quick look.
Yeah, okay. I will start logging them now. So if you start putting the questions in now, I will I am creating a Google Doc, and I will log them now.
Let's look at the league. So LSU-Arkansas starts the day at 11 a.m. Also at 11 a.m. on CBS is Missouri at Tennessee. Tennessee's a 20.5-point favorite. I think they bounce back in a big way, especially at home.
I would take them to cover. Who are they playing again?
Missouri.
Yeah.
But
I like Blake Baker's defense.
What did you think about Missouri giving Eli Drinkwitz the contract extension? He's sub 500 through 2+ seasons. And they gave him a deal that, and not just a new deal, an extension. They gave him a raise. He's going from $4 million to $6 million a year.
I don't know how the hell he's going to $6 million. There must have been some flirtation or something. But I mean, I think it's a commentary in Missouri being like, look, we know who we are, and Drink has this competitive at least, and maybe he's like an offense away from rounding the corner. I mean, Blake Baker's actually done a fantastic job in the defense. They lost their best player. They lost their best defensive player, Mekhi Wingo, who's now the SEC's highest-graded interior defensive lineman, and they've still been really damn good. They could have beaten Georgia, but the problem is, will Drink fall victim to Scott Frost syndrome, where all these shoulda, woulda, couldas never translated, or can he at least? He don't have to win all of them, but can he be like a 4-4 SEC East team? Because I feel like this
Kentucky.
This raise is them saying that they think that Drinkwitz can do that. Like Mizzou's not holding any. They don't have any delusions of grandeur.
You know the interesting thing about Blake Baker too is realize he wasn't hired to be the DC.
Yes, I forget that. We were talking about that the other day.
It was Steve Wilkes, who was hired by the Carolina Panthers, and is now the interim head coach of the Panthers.
Yeah.
Which is super crazy. That's how Blake Baker ended up DC there, but it's worked out for him.
Well, Blake Baker's had like 2 really good years of coaching.
Yeah.
I don't know what it does for his career, but like he was obviously so critical in developing Damone Clark into what he ended up becoming, being one of the only positive parts about that defense last year. And now Missouri's legitimately good on defense. So
Vanderbilt goes to Kentucky. Kentucky's an 18-point favorite. Vanderbilt's quarterback, A.J. Swan, the freshman, who's actually slung it pretty good.
I like A.J. Swan.
He's hurt. He's not playing in the game, so they're back to Mike Wright starting. Bama's at Ole Miss. Bama's a 12-point favorite in that game. I love Bama in bounce-back spots. Nick just isn't going to lose 2 in a row. I know Ole Miss can sling it, and they're going to score points against that Alabama defense, but I think Ole Miss's defense is not going to be able to stop Alabama at all.
I'll say Bama wins, but I do think Ole Miss covers. I'll take Ole Miss.
And the 12?
There, yeah.
I probably won't play that game, but I think Alabama, if I had to play it, I would play Alabama to win and cover. I know that they've struggled on the road, and we've talked about that narrative a bunch, which is true. I mean, it was one of the reasons that leaned heavily LSU last week. Man, that a bounce-back spot and a really bad Ole Miss defense. Oof. South Carolina is at Florida in Gainesville. Florida's an 8-point favorite over South Carolina in that ball game. Florida with a win gets the bowl eligibility, by the way.
The problem is Spencer Rattler just is not good.
He's not a good player.
Like, not even like the whole idea was South Carolina didn't have a quarterback yet the last year. If they can even get like above average quarterback play, they will be vastly improved. And they haven't. They've gotten average to below average play still.
But they're 6-3. They found a way to win games.
No, I mean, shout out Beamer. That's what I'm saying. But like, it will hold them back, I think, in a game like this. I think Florida will win this game.
The A&M game, for example. I mean, they got up 17 in that game, but it was like a kickoff return for a touchdown, like a fumble return for a pick six. You know what I mean? Like
Beamer ball.
It's how they got up 17-0, and A&M just didn't have the offense to come all the way back.
Oh, wait, you're talking about Florida. My bad.
No. The South Carolina game
okay,
against Texas A&M. That's like A&M lost at Carolina as a favorite.
Yes.
But that's how Carolina built its lead. They had like a 100-yard kickoff return. They had a pick six.
Which, again, that is Beamer ball.
Yeah, that's how they did.
Is the thing.
Like A&M outgained them by like 150 yards in the game. But, just how the game transpired. Georgia is at Mississippi State. Georgia's a 16-point favorite. God, they look like a fucking juggernaut again, don't they?
Yeah, so it seems like the big takeaway after last week would be that Georgia and Mizzou maybe wasn't a sign of cracks in the armor as much of a sign as just being bored.
Yeah, Georgia was playing with its food, man.
Because, like, when Georgia has decided that you call for their full focus, it has been devastating thus far. I mean, Oregon caught them hands. Now, granted, it is a better Oregon team now. Everybody laughs at Bo Nix. I mean, the game would be different. I'm not saying that Oregon's going to win that game, but I do feel that the game would be different if you played again today, but it doesn't matter, whatever. Maybe they do get to play again, actually, right? But But no, Georgia. What's crazy is, Matt,
it was back-to-back weeks.
Nick's
You remember,
only
it was Kent State and Missouri in back-to-back weeks.
Yeah.
And Kent State was a 12-10 ball game. And then it was 19-13. I mean, that was with 3 minutes to go in the half, the first half. Like, it was close for a half, and so people were like, and then they went to Missouri the next week and did the same damn thing, and so everyone was like, maybe Georgia isn't that good, and maybe Oregon stinks, and we put too much into that win, and then Oregon, we realized, the Oregon's actually pretty good, and when Georgia lost 42-10 against Auburn, 55-0 against Vanderbilt, 42-20 against Florida, and then they blew. Tennessee's 27-13 might be the most misleading score of the year. They just kicked the shit out of Tennessee. 27-13 is not in any way
No, they throttled him. Yeah. I mean, some of the saddest moments I've ever seen was that one drive when Tennessee kept getting first downs from penalties but kept going backwards. Like Hendon Hooker just looked like a man who was being just like ganged up on and beaten into the ground. He's like barely standing up in the rain. Then just like beating him down again, dude. It was that was like hard to watch at times.
The only other game in the league, then we'll get to your question.
Too bad LSU's about to whoop that ass.
Texas A&M against Auburn. The loser of this game clinches a losing season.
And Auburn's favored, right?
Auburn by 1.5. This is a sellout at Jordan-Hare, by the way. They're pretty fired up about Cadillac.
Interim bump, Auburn wins.
I actually think so.
Yeah.
I think you have a deflated A&M team. Look, A&M probably would have beaten Florida last week if not for missing a dozen starters because of the flu. And I'll credit A&M for playing tough and sticking in there and, not just completely quitting on the season. They're just not very good. They've not gotten really good quarterback play. I don't know if they're going to start the freshman this week or if they're going to go back to Haynes King. It sounded like the freshman was going to be the guy for the rest of the year, and then he got the flu, so they started Haynes King again.
I was wondering why Wigman didn't start. I didn't know he was in the flu.
Yeah, he was the flu guy. He was in the flu thing. So it was, I think Auburn, I'm going to pick Auburn at home to win it. I mean, they sold that game out. Dude, this is a 3-6 team, and they sold this game out. They're like, when it was the video that they posted in the locker room of Cadillac talking to the team, about their fight and everything like that, rallying from down big at Mississippi State.
And they're a scrappy team. They're a scrappy team, dude.
I think A&M's got more talent, clearly. Auburn's had freaking half their roster going to the portal.
But Cadillac fired all the Boise boys immediately.
Situations, man. I think those dudes are going to get up and play hard for him. I do.
Yeah, so I'll give it in. And plus, Jimbo's got one leg out the door. He's going to West Virginia, dude. Book it, dude. He's going home. Did you see the quote?
Oh, my God.
Did you see the quote? That was from before the season. But still, the quote.
No, what quote?
Here is Jimbo. He was asked about going to coach at West Virginia. This is, now to be clear, this is before the season started.
Yeah.
He said, you don't ever say never in this business. Home is home. West Virginia is always dear to my heart. Love them. I always have. Always rooted for them my whole life. Hey, you can never say never in this business where it takes you. I'm happy where I'm at, and I love where I'm at, but home is home.
So and basically, then, of course, if I ever get fired, I could go there.
So you saw the message board geniuses post. So there's a great Twitter account, Message Board Geniuses, that just culls all the college message boards. And on one of the message boards, there is someone who says that they have a high-up source in Texas A&M that a buyout is being negotiated where they'll agree to a lower buyout, and he's going to go coach at West Virginia. So, it's all happening, dude. It's all happening. That's why Auburn wins, Jimbo's out, going to WVU. And my brain is so broken. And I like WVU. They need to fire Neil Brown immediately. I'm down for it. On one side, I'm saying Jimbo sucks, but I like Jimbo West Virginia. Let's go, dude.
Patrick McKenzie, do you think Max Johnson transfers again? If he does, he'll have to sit out. Remember, it's a one-time transfer where you don't have to sit out, so I don't think he leaves. Robert Cockerham said, love to hear you guys' opinion on A&M, the decommit, and if this will snowball.
Yeah, so I read about that today on The Athletic. They had, a 5-star, the number one linebacker in the country, basically.
Yeah, 5-star linebacker decommitted. He's likely going to go to Texas.
Yeah, and that's the insult to injury, right, is that Texas is where the momentum is coming from. Look, I'm not sure that I have any long-term faith in Sarkisian in Texas, but it's not as bad as the failed expectations or situations that's going on right now at A&M. The bottom line, despite all the money in the world, A&M is not the most attractive place right now. you can go get just as much money at Texas, and at least there's more positive momentum and a more positive fan base around a team. You're playing in the Big 12 still, so it's an easier road. Like, A&M is a bit toxic right now, and you're seeing that. Now the big thing's going to be how many players end up leaving.
Would you have classified LSU as toxic last December?
Yeah.
And they got a coach away from Notre Dame. Like, if A&M fires Jimbo, there will be a gigantic fucking line of people waiting to take that job.
Oh yeah, I think Lane would leave. I think Lane would absolutely leave Ole Miss. They could basically take who they wanted.
The resources you have to win there, it's actually more astounding that A&M has never figured it out than anything.
Yeah, I agree.
Because of the resources they have. Like, it is stunning when you have that much money to hire whoever, build whatever facility, recruiting budget in that state where you've got talent coming out the ass, and you cannot win there. It is stunning to me.
Yeah.
Stunning to me that they have never figured it out at that school.
That's the problem with A&M is you know a lot of people scoff at this and say, well, look at the history, but I'm with you. I believe they're always only one coach away. So you probably don't actually want Jimbo to be fired.
I don't want Jimbo to be fired.
Exactly right.
I want him to play in his ass there for a decade.
A&M's problem is they thought that Jimbo's end of his tenure at Florida State was more about Florida State, when now we're seeing it was probably more about Jimbo. And the game kind of passing him by a bit, right? I mean, that's fair to say. Like, if you look at after Jameis Winston, he produced, 3 or 4 first-round quarterbacks in a row, and after Jameis Winston, it's been nothing.
The freaky thing that happened is, if you remember in that last year, the year at Florida State where they went 5-7 or whatever it was, in the season opener they were playing Alabama, and his quarterback was DeAndre Francois, I'm pretty sure.
He's supposed to be pretty good.
And DeAndre Francois, shattered his leg in that game. And so the whole rest of the season was this weird hodgepodge of bad quarterback play, and they lost close games, and it was a mess. And then he had the escape hatch, and so he pulled the ripcord. So I get it.
But it still had been a consistent decline to that point. Not saying he didn't get a bad break to break his back, but they had gotten consistently worse.
So they won the Natty in 13. They went to the playoff in 14 with Jameis and lost to Oregon in the Rose Bowl.
Yep.
And then 15 was the year that they tried to get that Oliva tried to get him here, and then they left after 16. So it wasn't really a consistent decline. It was you lost your Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, and then the guy –
I get it. He went – so after they went 14-0, 13-1, then 10-3, 10-3, which is respectable, but is, I guess, technically a step down. Then 5-6, and he bailed.
So, I mean, and that's
not awful, definitely not awful, but a decline certainly from 14-0 to 13-1, 10-3, 10-3.
But you were still talking about 10-win seasons.
Yeah, exactly. And he won an Orange Bowl in 16.
But that also coincided with Clemson's ascension in the ACC. So Clemson won the title in 16, and
but that doesn't excuse him.
No, I'm not saying, but I'm saying But you can understand where maybe a conference loss go, where you went from maybe 11-1 to you were 10-2. You know, lose a bowl game here, whatever. So, but then the quarterback broke his leg and they had a 5-win season and he bailed. So, I get it. I get it. So I get why you wouldn't have looked at that one game or that one season and said he's going down the shitter. And I'll tell you honestly, I would have been very interested.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'd have been very interested if. And look, obviously things being what they are, it's what they are, worked out. And LSU got the 2019 season, and now you got Brian Kelly, and you feel really good. But if Jimbo had been hired in 15, this is such a weird tangent that we've gone off here. But
Jimbo talk's always interesting.
If they had fired Les in 15 and hired Jimbo, like they were this close to doing, agreement in principle and all that sort of shit. We don't have to go down. But it was
end up with it was done. End up with a natty, dude.
But what's interesting is 2016, and I think you'll probably disagree with me on this because we've talked about, what Ed inherited and all. The 2016 LSU team was good enough to win a national championship. It was preseason number 3 in the country. Your running backs were Leonard Fournette, Darius Geis, Darrell Williams. Your top 3 receivers were Malachi Dupree, DJ Chark, Russell Gage. Ethan Posick came back on that team. Will Clapp was on that team. Your defensive line, you had a veteran, Christian Lockshire. That was the year where Arden Key was an All-American. Your linebackers were Kendall Beckwith and Duke Riley. Your cornerbacks were Tre'Davious White and Dante Jackson. And your safeties were Jamal Adams, and I forget who the other safety was on that team. But my point is, you had a fuckload of talent.
Yeah, it's a great team.
And Les fucked it up. And he lost to Wisconsin, and he lost to Auburn. He got fired, and then Ed basically took an amazingly – by the way, Brandon Harris was a junior on that team, and our thought was, all right, year 3, let's see if he can take that step. And then when Les got fired, Ed put Etling in, and then that was it. But I would have been – my point is, I would have been very interested to see what a better coach than Les could have done with 2016, because you had so much talent on that 2016 team. Like a fuckload of talent on 2016. Like, it's amazing. Like, we're talking about A&M not being able to put it. It's amazing that Les fucked up 2016 because they had so much talent.
That's fair.
Like, after the bowl game in 15 when they beat Texas Tech, the whole story was Les was having these conversations with the players in the hotel lobby in Houston, like Ethan Posick and all these guys, about coming back, and they all, like, everybody came back. Posick came back. Tre'Davious White came back. Wanted to be the first in his family to graduate from college. Fucking Beckwith came back for a senior. It was crazy. Like, everybody came back, and they fucked it up. Yeah. So I guess my point is, if Les had gotten fired in 15 and you had a better coach, if Jimbo was coaching 16 with all that talent, they would have had a far better result. But you don't get 2019, and you don't get Brian Kelly right now, and maybe it does continue to erode. Who knows? It's just one of those unknown questions that we'll talk about forever.
Yeah. Oh, you want to get some Ask Scone T's?
Yeah, go ahead.
Ask Scone T. How do they handle Dellinger this week? Will it be like a pitch count? Any
what would you do
about continuity on the line?
I would love to know your thought. They've been awesome the last 3 weeks without him.
I know.
Do you disrupt the continuity?
But is that, again, though, how we even frame that's a bit of a fallacy. It's not that they've been awesome without him. They have been awesome, but they could be better with him.
Okay, can they be?
Yeah, I mean, I think they can.
Has Miles Frazier been a weak link?
He's getting better. It seems like he's getting better every game. Like, he's not showing up on film, which, like, is ironic. As an lineman, it's good to not show up on film. And so he has been getting better and better. I'm guessing if he's still in a cast,
he is.
I got to imagine that it is a bit of a pitch count. Like, unless you're just confident, which Miles Frazier has played really well, so I don't know that it would be anymore. At a time, it was clear that he was one of the best 5. Coming off of a knee injury with a cast on, that's what the coaches evaluate. But I can definitely see how you could say he's still good, but not one of the best 5, and we will play him. But you play him because you think a fully healthy Dellinger is either one of the best 5, or if you do get injured by anyone down the stretch, like, you have an immediate plug at any of the 3 interior positions, which is great, and a plug that you feel like is really a starter.
Your first 6 are good, for sure. Someone said, Lamar Stevens said Brian Kelly beat 2016 LSU. No, he didn't. 2016 LSU was the team that beat the shit out of Louisville in the Citrus Bowl. Brian Kelly beat LSU twice, 2014 in the Music City Bowl and 2017, which was Ed's first year in the Citrus Bowl. LSU went to Citrus Bowl back-to-back, but 2016 was the team when, remember, Arden Key sacked Lamar Jackson like 8 times in that game?
That was awesome, dude.
Like, that was 2016, so Brian Kelly did not beat 2016 LSU.
Fonzarelli says, are you more confident about LSU at Arkansas or LSU at A&M?
Arkansas, because A&M has better talent.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I'm worried if they just are pissed.
I was actually talking about that today on Snaps. Is like, I still have this fucked up part of my brain that's just like, A&M's gonna be good. Like, they're gonna get it together. Like, at a certain point, they're gonna get it together, right? And so
Otter said LSU would be an 8-point favorite at A&M.
Okay, so that is Vegas telling you you should be worried more about Arkansas.
Yeah, for sure.
Fonzarelli, ask Scone T, what are the chances that Texas 4-8 game at the end of the year determine if they go to a bowl game?
They'd have to win this week against Auburn. If you
could beat them to stop them from getting to a bowl, that would be so sweet.
They have UMass next week, so they'll win that. But if they lose, they'll have to beat Auburn. They'll have to beat Auburn and LSU to get to a bowl game.
The GOAT says, ask Scone T, thoughts about JD potentially going, Jaden Daniels, potentially going pro after this year?
I think he's going to go pro.
I mean, it all depends on where his draft stock is. And, I mean, but Matt, so somebody else goes on to ask, Cajun Marines is asking T, will the new NIL deals help keep Jaden Daniels for one more year? It is something to think about. Like, unless he's getting first-round draft stock, if he thinks that he can be a first-rounder, it is something to think about. Like, if he gets, like, third- and second-round grades, those are guys that sometimes may want to push for a first. And, Matt, you can't discount he's in a very positive environment right now. Like, he's coming from a toxic Arizona State. He probably loves this staff right now. He loves his teammates. He loves how the fans are treating him. He should have money coming in, especially if storylines start to develop about, like, Jaden's thinking about going pro. Like, I have no clue what he's going to do. I'm not saying that. But his draft grade, I believe, will determine. Obviously, if he's first rounder, you go. Like, you don't think twice about it. If you get a first-round grade, get out of there. Go make your money. But if he still thinks he can get there and he's having a good time and he's making good money along the way, I could see a world where he stays.
So I'll tell you, Jaden Daniels has previously done 2 deals with LSU's collective. Go Enterprises is the collective. And they were described to me as 2 small deals.
Yeah.
And then he just did the deal with Gordon McKernan, which they announced formally today.
Oh, really?
And
wait, we need to talk about the Gord father. So they sent us notes.
And I will tell you, the amount of those 3 deals would not be enough to keep Jaden Daniels here.
Even if he's a third-round pick. I'm saying, like, do you not think he would want to try to get up to being a first-round pick?
I think Jaden Daniels wants to be in the NFL.
Okay, that makes sense. Some guys are like that. That makes sense.
I'm sorry, I thought we've talked about this before, but I'll explain it again. When he transferred in, I'll do this quickly because I know a lot of you have heard it. When he transferred in, I talked to a lot of people who covered him at Arizona State, especially in his recruitment, and he was like the number 30 overall player in the country. It was sort of understood that he was 3 and done. Had an awesome freshman year. Everything got fucked up in COVID. They only played 4 games. And then last year was a total disaster. He had no receivers. The program was a complete dumpster fire. And so he jumped ship. He decided to play 1 more year of college, toyed with the idea of going pro, transferred to play at LSU, and it was sort of understood this is like a 1 year, then I'm going to go.
Yes, understood, but
he's got another year if he wants.
But things have developed way beyond expectation, right?
But if your expectation,
what if he thinks he can now win a Heisman and a championship? Like, these are all very tempting. And what's crazy is that's not crazy. Like, he's like, what, like 5th in Heisman odds or something like that? Maybe 7th?
He's 8th. There are 7 players with a better odds.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's not a crazy. So, my point is, when he originally came here and he's like, look, I want to come in 1 year, I want to go to the NFL. The setting of football that he is coming from and the one that he is committing to are light years away from what it feels like to go to work on this Monday. When he's suddenly the fucking man, he's winning the SEC West, going to Atlanta for a championship. Maybe you lose to Georgia and he's like, you know what, next year I want to fucking. Like, all I'm saying is, like, I don't think it's open and shut.
You don't have to convince me. Like, everything logically, everything you're saying, I completely agree with. Like, I could see a scenario where Jaden Daniels comes back on a team that gets even more mature, right? That will have every receiver back except for Jure and Kayshawn, but you've got tons of talent there. Mason Taylor is a year older. Your entire offensive line returns. Your defense is going to be really good. Like,
that's what, exactly. And that's the other part about it. Yeah,
like chance to win a championship, all that stuff is there. All of that, logically, I completely agree with. But if a dude wants to go pro, he's just going to go pro.
Yeah,
some guys just want to go pro.
Yes, but also some of those guys that want to go pro really care about when they're going pro to get that big first contract, right? And if you're someone who's on the edge of being a first rounder, you have more incentive than any. Like, if he's like 5th round,
or maybe he's never going to be a first rounder.
That's what I'm saying.
Maybe he's got a skill set that the league will never look at and say you're a first rounder.
Well, and that's why if he gets like a 5th round grade, he probably goes. But ironically, it's almost like if you get like a 2nd round grade, are you like, I could push that thing up. Whatever. Only time will tell. Chance Babin asked Steve, did playing in cold affect your game? How's your response? Nah, dude, cold. I mean,
slow down.
Cold. He's just asked about playing in cold weather. I think it's all a bit overdone. It sucks and it's different, but it's not why you lose the game.
By the time you get look, I didn't play in college, but by the time you get the first pop and the blood flows.
Yeah, I mean, you warm up, dude. Cold only sucks if you're not playing. If you're on the bench, that's when cold sucks.
Unless if you are in, we're talking like extreme freezing temperatures where it doesn't matter. It does, like, okay, so real quick, we're going long, but I don't care. The year I lived in South Bend, our final exams for the fall semester got canceled because there was a blizzard. Like, not postponed. canceled. Like, it was a blizzard.
Nice.
The city was shut down, so no one could. It was a commuter campus. Nobody could get there. So they just canceled finals. We played. There was a big field, and so like everybody in the dorm went and played a football game, like in the snow, like a snow football game. And we're talking like blizzard conditions, like single-digit temps, negative wind chill. When you like take off your glove, your hands freeze.
Yeah.
Like literally,
like literal
the snot
danger
in your nose, free. Like your shit is frozen.
Yeah.
Like there's no warming up from that. That's not going to be Saturday in Fayetteville when it's 38 degrees on a sunny day. Like, it's going to be cold, but as soon as you start moving around, you're good.
Yeah, and it's not raining. If it was raining, I might be a little more like.
That just sucks.
Are you more confident? Oh wait, no, sorry. T-Bob, is a huge stock pot at the end of the court a new thing? Is there a giant stock pot at the end of the LSU basketball court?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I had the game on, but it was halftime.
Did anything stand out in the game film review that needs major correcting? Quite honestly, no. It was especially not major, right? Not to say there aren't mistakes, right? Like the major Burns play was a massive mistake, but then he made up for it with fantastic effort, right? So it's like, it's not that it was a perfect film, but there was nothing consistent where it was like, this is a fucking problem. They have to fix it, and that's why I describe it as being sustainable and not fluky. Chance Babin, Fonz Fonzarelli, ask Scone T, do they put Deli back in the start? Okay, we talked about that. Cajun Marine, ask Scone T. Kobe, ask Scone T, is this the start of the Saban downfall to where Kirby or BK takes it?
I don't think so.
I'm not there, dude. I think people are being a little crazy with this.
They lost on a...
I mean, their shitty year, like everybody keeps going like, well, last year they almost lost. Their shitty year is beating the national champion in the SEC championship, but then losing in the championship. Like, winning a playoff game, but like that's the shitty year combined with this one that we're basing off of. Matt, here's Alabama's. Let me. Oh man, with this loads, I can give you their. Look at their last 5 recruiting classes for Alabama. Number 1 in 2019, number 2 in 2020, number 1 in 2021, number 2 in 2022. They're number 1 in 2023. They have 5 1-stars to Georgia's 1 5-star. Excuse me.
5 5-stars.
5 5-stars to Georgia's 1 5-star. Like, let's all fucking relax. I get that the man looks tired, but he's 70-something. He's giving you no indication that he's actually, like, tired.
I also just look at the fact that the game they lost to Tennessee was it took 52 points, 17 penalties on Alabama, and a knuckleball kick in a fucking madhouse. And then the same thing in Baton Rouge. Listen, I'll say it again. The biggest difference at Alabama right now is at the line of scrimmage.
The O-line is bad. The O-line is bad.
And their interior defensive line is as well. LSU ran for 185. I mean, LSU could never – it used to feel like every yard was impossible, and that was because of their interior guys on the defensive line, because of Ashawn Robinson, Jerron Reed, Quinnen Williams, Jonathan Allen. That guy's not there right now.
Now, to give the other side some credence, the rise of Kirby has to be concerning. Matt, Nick only won back-to-back championships once at Alabama. If Kirby was to do it immediately here, that would be kind of a shot across the bow. The longest gap Nick has ever had without a championship at Alabama has been 3 years. So if he doesn't win one next year, which it's tough to see how they would at this point, that would mean that gap extended a bit. So I'm not saying that there's not cracks in the armor, but like let's be a little careful about declaring the downfall of a team that is still going to be more talented than your team.
It's just hard to win championships.
Exactly, which is what I'm always saying, which is why I hate how we view sports in America a lot of times where it's always championship or bust. We allow no room for nuance or context. Brambo says Mizzou is going to give Tennessee problems. I don't think so. Von Bluesman asks Scone T, what about the game film review? No, we already did that. And Smoke Break says, better question is what would have happened at A&M if Sumlin stays?
No.
I mean, probably the same stuff that's happening now. I mean,
Jesus.
Maybe a little bit better, actually.
He has 420 watching.
Yeah, I know.
It's incredible. Please smash the like button. Thank you. Any more?
Ask T-Bob if you have a boy, you name it a Bob. If I had a boy, I'd have to name it Bobby Joe Saber the fourth. I just don't know if we call him Quad Bob, Little Queasy, QZ. I don't know. Thoughts on Polian today? Keep him. I mean, he's not going anywhere, guys. It's a fucking hand of the king. You're not firing the hand of the king.
I don't know that I agree with that.
Okay, well, I would be shocked.
Okay.
If Brian Kelly were
I don't have any insight, but I also think we saw Brian Kelly.
He was the first hire that he made. It's his fucking hand.
We also saw Brian. We can keep him on staff and not be an on-field coach, but we also saw Brian Kelly fire Brian Van Gorder. at Notre Dame, I think, after 1 year. He hired him as a DC, and it was like his only real bad hire. I mean, he hired Bob Diaco. He hired Mike Elko.
But Damian Ramos has been great. Jay Bramblett was great this last game, a key reason why you won. Yep. No return issues anymore. Trust the process. Polian ain't going nowhere. And it doesn't matter. Polian's not as bad as we were all making him out to be. Like, it was very frustrating at the beginning. I get it. But he's not going anywhere. Get over it. That's it. Happy Scone T. I got to eat this fucking Boudreaux Benedict or whatever's in front of my face.
Get it. Thanks for watching.
And love y'all. Later. Come out to Oliver Twist.